Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video, I'd like to finally grab a little bit of time to discuss something outside the Trump tariff tidal wave, though still related to the what's it of rage. It's how Europe is doing exactly what Trump said we should do. Exactly what he said. And now US officials are whining like brats about it. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So I'm hoping we have a little pause here between the main craziness of Trump's tariff gambit and learning more details about how my own government intends to fit into this new world of American protectionism. Starmer gave a little speech yesterday with some insights, but I think more details are still to come later, so I'm just going to wait for that. In other words, if this video sees the light of day, then it would appear Trump has avoided doing anything unexpectedly stupid today. So I'm hoping to catch up with a couple of things which sit just outside the trade war. Because just because Trump is making America more of a hindrance than a help to us, doesn't mean Putin's Russia has gone away as a problem. Ukraine's still in a very bad situation, and this threatens Europe more widely. Various European leaders, including Starmer, Macron, the incoming German Chancellor Merz, Tusk and others, have been urging everyone else to wake up to the new reality which Trump has ushered in. They're probably not going to make that point with Hungary. But with the others, there's a new reality where Europe, which has the economic chops to do so, should be sourcing its own defence instead of being so reliant on the United States. Trump made a big deal of the fact that Europe was taking advantage, and in this particular case, very hard to argue. Of course, America gained as well. In return for military support, Europe often defers to the United States as the de facto leader of the free world, which is a term used to mostly describe Western-aligned democracies. But if America was happy to lose this leadership role, more than reasonable to expect Europe to pay for our own defence. After all, we can certainly afford it as much as individual governments will complain about tight budgets. So various European leaders have now cobbled together the so-called coalition of the willing. The EU has changed fiscal rules to allow members to borrow for defence investment more easily. The incoming German government has talked about a €1 trillion investment, though the tariffs may complicate that. They have a somewhat greater dependence on exports to the USA than most, and the UK is preparing to join in as well. We've already boosted defence spending, although paid for with controversial trade-offs, and further cooperation is going to be the subject of discussion at an UK-EU summit in just a few weeks' time. Though in reality, the discussions will be taking place right now. The summit tends to be where the agreements are announced in practice. And yet, despite this sudden call to arms, exactly in line with what Trump has been saying for years, US officials are now complaining. Why? Because Europe is investing in its own defence industry. Trump was kind of hoping that the consequence of his policy would be Europe just signing a lot of checks and buying the American military equipment that America had been contributing itself. It's like, no, we still want you to have the American equipment. We just want you to pay for it. That makes no sense. Not only does it mean money leaving your own market instead of generating jobs locally, but Trump has threatened to effectively sabotage advanced military tech being sold to the likes of Europe because, in his words, he doesn't know who his allies will be in the future. So basically, we're not entirely keen on the idea of Trump, someone who isn't certain he's still going to be an ally of Europe in the future, having an effective kill switch on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of kit. And it's better for the European economy that we buy our own stuff anyway. So the US government is now complaining. Spend more on defence. All right, then. No, not like that. And you can see why they wouldn't be very happy. One advantage to the United States providing such a lot of military support in Europe, as I already said, is that Europe then defers to America in a lot of geopolitical situations. For example, we have dealt with the Russian invasion of Ukraine America's way. This is not the way that was considered best by several European governments, but they were allowed the leadership role because of that support, right? So in 10 years' time, that is likely to have fundamentally changed. America will no longer be able to count upon being a leader in geopolitical situations like it is now. But there's another reason as well. The more funding Europe sinks into military research, development and production, the more likely it is that other countries outside of America and Europe around the world will get a choice between American and European equipment to buy. This not only means that America will lose out more than it does now, but even when it wins contracts, it may have to lower the asking price. So congratulations on another great deal there, Trumpy boy. It is absolutely fair to demand Europe pays more for its own defence. No arguments from me there. More than reasonable. But the consequence is that Trump has now imposed a policy which will lead to more competition for the dominant US defence industry. Now, this could lead to more innovation, of course, as competition often does. Minor problem, however, is that Trump is gutting research and academic study in America, which will not help. In fact, we need to attract them over here. You know, all of those scientists that are going to have to sort of flee America very soon, not in an asylum sort of way, but just because research programs are being cut, we need to get them to Europe. But which is actually the opposite, actually, isn't it? Quite a lot of them went to America from Europe in the 1930s and 40s. Now it's the other way around. But anyway, what is very likely is that America will not make as much profit on its defence equipment if there are others producing rival versions. And Trump has set in motion this future. And I find it baffling that anyone, from the president down to officials in his government, would not realise that, of course, this is how Europe would inevitably implement Trump's demands. In fact, part of Europe's plan doesn't just mean that other governments may buy more European kit and less American kit in future. The European procurement plan works specifically for equipment bought in Europe. So Europe will certainly be buying less equipment from the USA, not more, over the next decade and beyond. Some US companies may still be able to get involved in this procurement plan, but I think they'll probably have to be based in Europe to do so, because I think the idea is it at least has to support jobs in Europe. You know, Rubio said that any effort to exclude US companies from European tenders would be seen negatively. Well, efforts to support Russia over Ukraine and impose huge tariffs on European exports have been seen negatively, Marco Miel China. America warning against excluding US companies from European defence when that same America has said Europe should manage its own defence and is actively throwing ring fences around American manufacture is not coming across as remotely serious. And although I describe this as an issue of discussion outside of Trump's trade war, it does have echoes of it, doesn't it? Trump wants to export more American goods to foreign markets, but he's choosing to do this by forcing those same foreign markets to export less to America. It's rank hypocrisy, which can work if you're strong enough, if you're a big enough bully, and America is very strong, but it may not be that strong. And others will resent the double standards. For example, Trump was speaking with another criminal in the White House yesterday and said that the EU sets these standards to stop others selling to them. No, they set standards to protect consumers, workers, the environment, smaller businesses. In fact, the value of goods imported into the EU is actually basically the same as the value of goods exported. So the EU buys as much as it sells in terms of goods. So it's obvious that selling to the EU is not difficult. You just need to produce goods which are quality and which people want to buy. This is where people like Trump have their real problem. They want to see shoddy shit for high profits. Sorry, if America wants to boost its manufacturing, which is weird because America became much wealthier when it sort of deliberately allowed manufacturing to decline in order for them to go for the more high yield trading services to make better stuff. Just make better stuff if you want to sell more stuff. And if it wants to have a successful trade policy, really needs to be more consistent. I mean, I will repeat, Trump has every right to say Europe should spend more on its own defence. He does not have the right, if they then do exactly that, to complain. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.